If the buzz leading up to and directly after the announcement of this phone is any indication, we're dealing with the most anticipated release of the year. Does this phone truly never settle for anything less than the best? Well, let's find out, because it's Josh Vergara from Android Authority, and this is the OnePlus One. Coming in at 5.5 inches in its screen, perhaps the first thing you'll notice about this phone is its size, and then you start to see all the elements that put it all together. Up front is, of course, that screen, but also with a respectable bezel all around that houses not only the front-facing camera up top, but also a row of capacitive keys that aren't really illuminated much at all, but they are definitely there. As we will talk about later, the capacitive keys can be rendered inactive in lieu of software keys, which is a unique feature of this phone's software, and luckily the bottom bezel isn't so big that this move would make no sense. Around the sides you'll see the button layout that consists of easily accessible buttons on the left and right. The power button is just low enough so that it's easy for you to reach it with your thumb and thus be able to activate it easily. And pressing the buttons brings a pretty meaty click, which is nice considering they are pretty thin to begin with. And the top of the phone houses the headphone jack, while the bottom of the phone has the dual speaker setup and the micro USB charging port. It's when you come to the back that you really begin to see some quality, and you can also feel it as well. The 13 megapixel optics, the OnePlus logo, and the cyanogen logo are all atop a smooth plastic created by a company called Cashew, the material of which was called baby skin in the presentation. It is indeed incredibly soft and has a really nice feel. The material might not stick too easily to your hand, but it also isn't so slippery that you would be afraid of dropping it all the time. Now, like some of the people over at OnePlus were saying when I was there for the launch event, the real test of it is when you rub it on your face, and I will admit, it does feel pretty nice. The back cover is removable, but there was one issue with it. I have to remove the SIM tray in order to begin that process, but the hole that you press into in order to pop it out is deep. The tools that I would normally use on any other phone just didn't get the job done, and I had to use either a paper clip or a long needle to get it out. After that, you are able to take away the first snap from under the SIM tray and move all around as needed after that. It's nice that it's not just the back panel, but the entire shell that comes off, because when you get your wood and even denim offerings, it completely changes the look of the phone without leaving literally any remnants of the original aesthetic. And finally, when it comes to handling, you are dealing with a phone that is pretty similar in dimensions to the likes of the Samsung Galaxy Note 3 and the Oppo Find 7, but I would actually argue that this is not only the best looking of the bunch, but it's also the best handling. Not only does the OnePlus One have a simplistically elegant look, its tapered back and slightly thinner profile make it easier to maneuver around. And even though you might not be able to use one hand all the time on this device, it is certainly possible in some respects. A 5.5-inch 1080p IPS display brings some great quality to this very affordable phone. We already talked about its size, but a bigger screen has its advantages as well. Earlier this week, I was able to watch half of a wrestling pay-per-view easily, and that was my aha moment with the OnePlus One's larger display. Even if I had issues trying to easily handle the device, media consumption was undoubtedly fun on this display. Doing anything from watching movies to playing games was enjoyable on this device with good colors all around, and the signature IPS brightness further allows for better viewing even in broad daylight. 401 pixels per inch allow for the kind of sharpness in text that you would expect from a screen this good, and on a screen that is large enough to warrant the kind of reading and web page browsing you may be doing. So you may be saying to yourself, good job so far on the design and the display, but what about the power underneath? Well, the Never Settle campaign continues with the current most powerful package underneath the hood. The Snapdragon 801, clocked in at 2.5 GHz, backed by the Adreno 330 and 3 GB of RAM, the RAM of which is still a bit of a rarity even in certain flagship devices today. We've been conditioned to believe that affordable phones just won't be the fastest ones out there, but OnePlus is hoping to buck that trend, and they certainly do so, not just with the processing package, but with the backing of CyanogenMod's optimizations. Getting around CM11S is a breeze, and multitasking is easy, jumping in and out of the recent app screen. Web browsing was also very good, with no real rendering issues when scrolling deep through pages. And of course, the gaming experience tended to be very good, as I have gotten through half of Riptide GP2 already without any issues at all. As I've just mentioned, CyanogenMod is at the helm of the software experience, but they are able to take advantage of processor features as well. For example, this quick boot ability in the developer options allows you to turn off the phone in a lighter state for much faster launch times. It's not a full shutdown, but you can turn off the phone to, let's say, save battery life, and then get back into your operating system in seconds when you need it. The bottom line here being that while you are in good hands already with the Snapdragon 801, you're also in good hands because the developer of the software knows that processor inside and out. On the hardware side, you might find somewhat less is offered here, but that probably shouldn't come as any surprise because of that low price point. You aren't getting any expandable storage on the OnePlus One, but you can always opt for 64GB of built-in storage on the black version of the OnePlus One. And it looks like a lot of you are, because OnePlus has already announced that they are bringing out the 64GB black version first in the release cycle over the white one at 16GB. All of the connectivity you would want is included as well, including 4G LTE, as evidenced by my using this phone easily on the T-Mobile network. Call quality was an interesting prospect on this particular model I'm using. While I sounded loud and clear to the people on the other side of the line, and there were no dropped calls experienced, the volume of the call was quite low on my end. Now, I've been in touch with the guys over at Cyanogen, and they have assured me that this is a software issue that they've been working on, and that more volume optimizations will be made in future builds of CM11S. Also, don't worry, with all these little quirks that you might be seeing in this review, I will give you an update video once I get my hands on the version of the phone that I am buying myself. Speaking of the speaker, the dual speaker setup on the bottom of the phone provides some adequately loud audio. It's not particularly rich, and certainly it just gets the job done, allowing you to enjoy media even in typically loud environments. But plug in the headphones and you'll enjoy the audio effects capabilities Cyanogen worked hard to build. It's a great app that gives you presets and also equalizer freedom to cater the sound to your liking. And for you bass lovers out there, the bass boost knob has been given center stage in the app. Finally, you get a 3100 mAh battery in the OnePlus One that is more or less the standard for phones of this size. And with that said, the battery life is also pretty standard. Nightly charging will probably be normal for you, however, as the day-and-a-half runtime is only really possible with some very frugal usage. So here's what it looked like when I was doing that camera shootout out in Venice Beach. Now, mind you, with the camera and video recording that I was doing, the phone was constantly trying to look for network in the black hole that is Venice Beach. But beyond that, I was actually able to watch part of that WWE pay-per-view. I was able to make a bunch of calls, send out a lot of texts, and even do some searches via Maps and Chrome. And by the end of the day, I still had double digits left in my battery life. And as we move on to the camera, Sony's Exmor IMX214 sensor is what backs Cyanogen's own camera application. We'll start with the app, which comes with a lot of features built into its version of the Google camera interface. One bummer, at least for me, was that the full 13 megapixel resolution only yields you 4:3 aspect ratio photos. It might not bother a lot of users out there, but it's really just a preference of mine. The menus in the app yield you a bunch of scene modes and live filters, all of which can be selected for a swiping interface that easily allows you to switch among them. The live filters are a nice touch as they show up in the entire viewfinder. Now dive deeper and you'll find the settings available for ISO and exposure compensation, as well as the option to even change the codec used for video capture. Picture quality was already shown in the camera shootout, and I was quite impressed with what came out. Colors were not dull, nor were they too saturated. The level of detail in plenty of the shots was really nice, and in low light the camera performed about as well as it could, even at a concert that I went to. Now, easily taking advantage of the filters and modes will allow you quick capture of your scene just the way you want it, as the focusing speed is not lightning fast, but decent enough to get your shot off in time. Video capture in 4K brought some good quality videos as well, but hopefully you are on the 64GB version of the phone if you're going to be making a lot of videos this way. I personally ran out of space in no time at all, with about 3-minute clips taking up about 1.5 GB of storage. Slow motion is also available at 720p resolution, allowing for 60 or 120 frames per second capture that yield half or quarter speed videos. And finally, the audio capture during videos, as you may have seen in the camera shootout, only recorded the left channel. But this was a software issue, and like I said already, the guys over at Cyanogen are already on the case, so this is just a temporary issue. And of course, if you need to step up your selfie game, all of the live filters are available for usage in the 5 megapixel front-facing shooter. So ultimately, you have a very capable photo and video package in the OnePlus One that may not necessarily blow everyone away, but can be arguably placed among some of the best Android phones out today. And finally, in software, we have the newest version of CyanogenMod, 11S, powering the OnePlus One. What results is an experience much akin to a stock Android feel, but then packs a lot of customization underneath. Turn on the phone and the first thing you're greeted with is the custom lock screen that is pretty much just a simple pull down. But once you pull down the lock screen, you have the home screens that are a canvas for you to put widgets, icons, folders, pretty much anything that you need on there, which is a pretty classical Nexus experience. But once you dig a little bit deeper, there's a lot more that it offers. The themes available in the Showcase application are still rather limited, but will grow over time. All of the themes are linked to listings in the Play Store, and not all of them are free, but the ability to change anything from fonts to even your boot screen means that with some time invested, you'll be able to really make CM look the way you want it to. Now dive deeper within and you'll find even more features that make life easier, like gestures. With the screen off, you can draw a number of different gestures for various tasks, like double tapping to turn on the screen and drawing a circle to easily get to the camera. They're useful, especially if you don't accidentally trigger them, which can happen very often. Even then, some features included show Cyanogen's own vision of Android. Whisper Push is good for anyone looking to encrypt sensitive information sent through text, and then the Privacy Guard allows you to see what your apps are doing when they are accessing pieces of information like your current location. Screencast is a built-in feature allowing for screen capture, which is one really cool addition that is built into the operating system. And then the Gallery app elegantly groups together your pictures into moments in an attractive grid format. And as a final look at the customization, we have the ability to move back and forth between the capacitive keys and the soft keys. So if you want to use one over the other, you finally can have your pick. Even the buttons themselves are customizable. Change what the double tapping or holding of the capacitive keys do, or even change the layout and behavior of the soft keys to your liking. In the end, CyanogenMod has really found a new home with the OnePlus One, a device that packs all of the power and hardware for it to play with, but also it affords the opportunity for Cyanogen to really show what its operating system is made of. You're probably sick of hearing the price by now, or not, because it really is that good. $299 for the base model and $349 for the 64GB Black Edition, which will likely be coming first in the release cycle. So you ask, what can beat that price? Well, the main competitors at the $299 price point are ones that just don't stack up. The Moto G, with its great value, also packs significantly less power all around. The Moto X can be found on sale for $299 more often these days, and while its optimized take on Android is one of the most accessible experiences out there, it also isn't all that powerful in comparison still. At the $349 price point, the closest competition is obviously the Nexus 5, which provides stock Android KitKat with a somewhat slower processor and fairly comparable hardware. Except, at that price, you only get the 16GB version compared to the massive 64GB of the OnePlus One at the same price. And so, there you have it. The OnePlus One. It's obvious OnePlus did all it could to keep from settling for second best. With the performance aspect, the above average camera quality, and Cyanogen in its corner, the price you pay for such a powerful package seems way too good to be true. But throughout my usage of this device in the past week, I've struggled to find the cut corner that might take all that magic away. So far, I haven't found it. Handling aside, this is one great looker of a device, and with the power underneath, it hasn't been hard to have fun with the large screen and performance. CyanogenMod 11S will please anyone looking for a set-it-and-forget-it interface, while those who love to tinker will get their kicks as well. Only somewhat above average battery life and the lack of expandable storage might be the only sore spots, but they're pretty easy to forgive when you're paying so little for so much. It's not very often that I get to review a phone, and then I look at it and realize, I could actually buy this phone. And you know what? I do think that is what makes the OnePlus One. As always, thank you guys very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this review of the OnePlus One. Yes, at $299, that really is the icing on the cake for the base model of this phone, and at $349, you get even more storage. But even if it didn't come in at that price point, this phone still definitely packs a wallop. So keep it tuned to Android Authority. Like I said, I'm going to be giving you an update video because those quirks and kinks that are currently in the device I'm using right now will likely be fixed in the general release, whether it's the software or otherwise. So once I get my hands on the version that I'm going to be buying, I will give you an update on what was fixed or what was enhanced. So keep it tuned to Android Authority for that. Drop us some likes because we love to see those thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Check out the content from all of my colleagues in Android Authority, everyone from Joe, Jace, Kevin the Tech Ninja, and also Lan Wen. And after that, make sure you head on over to androidauthority.com because we are your source for all things Android.